I'm Donna DeCesare. I'm an associate professor in the journalism school. I teach photojournalism, and I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker tonight. For most of you gathered here, Eli Reed needs no introduction. Former students, colleagues, collaborators, and friends, he has touched your lives with his incomparable work and his generosity of spirit. For our current students who are less familiar, you are in for a special night, an opportunity to learn from Eli Reed, one of the giants of 20th and 21st century photography. Rather than read a list out of Eli Reed's innumerable accomplishments touched upon in the artist statement downstairs on the third floor in our gallery, and easily found online as well, I want to share with you some of my own memories of Eli's photographs and the influence that his work had on my own direction in photography. I first encountered Eli Reed's images in 1984 in a class called Documentary Process that I took at the International Center for Photography in New York. It was taught by Fred Ritchen, who was then the photo editor for the New York Times Magazine. We studied a series of images, searing work that had been published in the New York Times from Lebanon in 1983, and discussed the representation of conflict and the resilience in Eli's amazing images of everyday life in Beirut. Later that same year, ICP hosted a group exhibition of work by photographers who had documented the civil war in El Salvador in the early 1980s. Eli's haunting images revealed the torment of survivors whose loved ones had been killed with impunity by death squads connected to the Salvadoran armed forces, a military whose government, the United States, was at the time actively supporting. Eli said their names. Decades later, here at home, he was still saying the names we need to hear. You will see this clearly tonight in his 2020 photographs that memorialize the meaning of George Floyd's life and death for our nation, and in images from Louisiana that he made just a few months ago, which he has published with Human Rights Watch. Eli Reed's moral clarity and harrowing elegiac images inspired me when I was photographing protests on the streets of New York and making trips to cover the troubles in Northern Ireland in the early to mid-1980s. I remembered his Salvadoran work, and when I moved to El Salvador in 1988 and photographed life there during the last 4 years of that counterinsurgency, his pictures often came to mind. Although we would not meet in person for more than a decade and a half after I first saw his images, his photographs were among the enduring influences of my formative years as a photographer. I pored over the photographs in his books, Beirut, City of Regret, and Black in America, moved by the emotional intelligence and compositional artistry in his images as well as his clear humanistic message. One encounters the soul of Eli Reed through these images, and when the viewer absorbs their full meaning, it is a call to conscience and an invitation to the heart, to care for others. I was thrilled to finally meet Eli in person in 2000 as we shared the stage, each presenting our work on a keynote panel at the annual conference of the National Association of Black Journalists. It cemented a friendship that has endured since. In 2003, I invited Eli to give a lecture in my large J316 class, Photographic Communications, here at UT, which then had nearly 200 students. The lecture featuring Eli's work on the Lost Boys of Sudan electrified the students here at UT. And it was not long afterward that he joined me teaching here at the School of Journalism, inspiring and mentoring our photojournalism graduate and undergraduate students, pushing them to appreciate the power of photojournalism as an art, a language, a way of connecting to people, and as a weapon in the struggles for social justice and human rights. Our former students have gone on to work in many fields with greater compassion because of Eli's teaching. Those who have become photojournalists are influencing their own communities and reaching the public with their own vision, but carrying forward the lessons they learned from Eli as seekers of truth and human resilience. Thank you, Eli, for continuing your work documenting the vast spectrum of human experience. Your work in the film industry, photographing cultural icons and celebrities, dazzles students as well. And one of the lessons of such imagery is that you are also able to find behind the performative a vulnerable and human side to those we associate with celebrity, status, privilege, and power. But speaking for myself, it is your penetrating focus on the latest chapters in the struggle for racial justice here at home in the US that I find your work most consequential. For the soulful artist, truth teller, and generous mentor that you are, let us all welcome Eli Reed back to UT tonight with thanks and attention to the lessons of his life in photography.
Thank you. I think it's time for me to leave now because I don't know I'm going to do this stuff. Anyway, I'm going to make it quick because we have to be out of here quick, right? Okay, the first thing you're going to see is a multimedia thing I did when the book The Long Walk Home was coming out, and that was sort of crazy because the first take at it, the pictures are going by so fast that people are saying, well, you know, that's really fast, you know, and I said, yeah, so if you buy the book, then you'll see. And and this is that you, Leon?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gained weight. No, I'm joking. You lost weight.
I give you a hug, but you know you're talking.
Yeah, okay. Leon is the first movie I ever worked on was okay, Leon, you got to start talking for me. I'm joking. It's like
Five Heartbeats.
Five Heartbeats. He's one of the stars there.
Directed by Robert Townsend.
And he could sing too. So that's a whole other story. Anyway, it was like an education for me because I was shooting the movies. They weren't used to seeing the number of frames I was sending back to the studio because I was shooting the way I do a photo essay. I had 5 great subjects to work with. So anyway, that was the beginning of a friendship, basically. And it's how I, you try to get connected with everybody because that's the way you're going to understand what's going on without getting in the way by your own little detailed kind of wrong things. So anyway, so the first thing you're going to see is, when they're ready to put it up is the, okay, the sound is working?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need it louder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am home again. Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am whole again. I love you.
Okay.
So,
Okay, we're going to do this a two-punch way. She's going to punch, and I'm going to answer with a counter-punch. So,
so I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about this photograph and how, what you saw and what you approached, and what was the feeling that drew you to make this picture?
most of the stuff that I do, the shooting I do, is like I sort of stream of consciousness. And, it's like when something's going on, you don't have time to intellectualize over it because you're going to miss what's going on. So what I would try to do is ignore stuff. Or like I have a friend that passed away, unfortunately, Bud Williams, and he grew up in Harlem. And I helped get him a job at the Daily News. He's really good. He knew certain things that was fantastic. He was also in the Olympics when the Black Power salute. He was with that crew. He was sort of the guy that's backing up. In fact, at his wedding, one of the two guys was the best man. So, and we used to walk through Harlem. On his day off was his Monday if I was in town, and we'd have breakfast first at the place where Malcolm X used to eat breakfast. There's a little plaque over to the table. So those kind of things, though, it's no matter what the subject is what gets you in the mode or gets you in the way of being able to see without getting in your own way, that kind of thing. And what happened is that we were walking along, and I see these kids playing, and there's a lot of times you see pictures of particularly black kids playing on mattresses and things like that, doing somersaults, and I always was, there's more to that, why are they there? And what happened is that we were walking, and it was an instant, no time to think about it. I made 2 frames, and the thing is that the young lady at the top of the picture, that's what really grabbed me, because she's ready to go. She's ready. She's not gonna be stopped. There's a kid that's holding an infant there, and this is all happening very quick. I think I got 2 frames from it. It might have been more, but I think it was two frames on the camera, and it was. Every time I saw this junk thing, it represents something else, to me at least, And I grew up, like, a family is poor, but, wasn't as bad as, something like that, like in New Jersey. But a factory that was nearby, that was not too cool. And that's a whole other story, which I'm not going to get into right now. But anyway, that's all that, the instant of finding an image, basically the image is finding you. You just have to be alert to be ready to catch it. That's the way it goes. And also, I think reading everything you get your hands on, or your eyes on, helps about life, just in general, things that you couldn't get to. This one was doing Woodstock. It's a Saturday in Woodstock, but it's not in Woodstock, it's in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. Now, I wanted to go to Woodstock. I was going to go there on my motorcycle that I'd just gotten, 250cc Honda. And the thing is, I only had a permit. I didn't have a driver's license. So I thought that if I start riding toward Woodstock, I'm going to get stopped at some point, and I'm going to end up spending the rest of the weekend in jail or something like that. So I was teaching art to students at playgrounds in Perth Amboy, and these 2 kids tortured me. They were throwing things around, pencils. Good thing I didn't have paint with me, because that would have really been bad. But so I had a 53 I forgot the name of the car, but it's an old car that was pretty cool. only $150. That's how much it cost me. And I went to the car. It had a big front seat, so I can escape these kids for a while. So I was laying down on the front seat, and these two, they're creeping up. One of them has, I think both of them had wax lips that they had. And so I said, they're coming to finish me off, but I got the last touch because my camera was on the floor of the car, and I was laying back, and I picked up, and boom, that was the picture. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to get into these things. This is another story. The car was not so happy. This is in St. Louis. Her husband, the woman there, he was really, some horrible things. He had 3 kids. You don't see the third kid because the darkness there. But I was working with this Reverend Larry Rice, who was working with homelessness, and so we were walking around at night, and I found this picture, and he got her and her family to East St. Louis, which is to me more dangerous than St. Louis. But I mean, it's the kind of thing. I worked with him for a couple of weeks. I mean, at one point, you walked from St. Louis to the state capitol, and that was an adventure, But it's I sort of you grab for work that you want to touch on. I mean, that my mentor down the greenhouse was the first person who told me I wanted to join the military because I thought I could get a job, afterwards, and that kind of stuff. And what happened is he said you shouldn't go. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I wanted to see with my own eyes what was going on. I wasn't trying to be a warrior or nothing like that. But he said there's a bigger war at home. He was talking about the racism that was going on and the things that were going on in the country, and that sort of helped. You get a little, how do you say, nudges sometimes, and you don't actually know it's a nudge, but that's what it is. And I mean, there's so many things. I mean, the reason the music that I chose for this multimedia thing was because you got to have a love for humanity is to do this stuff, really. And so that's why I chose that song. I thought it was just really good. I think what's her name?
Adele.
Adele. I know the singer, but the original, the one who wrote it. What? McCure? No, that's not the original. What's her name? She's just getting awarded. Forget that. Let's stay away from it. So I don't know. But it's. I mean, life. The way I look at it, life is always an interesting experience. Like I'm going to use you for example, Leon. He did a thing on home box office. He plays a very bad character, but who changes. And watching this one little thing he did that most people may not understand or thought was part of the script, when he was going to be executed, he looks in the mirror for the last time. That's really something else. The last time your character is looking into that mirror. And I've never forgotten that, because it's something that's more than just being human. It's a thing like you get into a theatrical thing, and on a reality. And it makes you think about all kinds of things that are going on, what the connection. Let's move on. Oh, these two guys, Pink Palace in San Francisco, was doing this project. I forget how long we worked on this thing, but it was a couple of weeks, maybe it was a month or something like that, with a reporter. And these two, the Pink Palace was a real hellhole. I mean, it was really bad. And what happened is, it was on the way to, as you're going to Golden Gate Park, people who didn't know any better would go to a Golden Gate Park real close. Yeah, very bad, real close. I mean, there's one point where 5 firemen came out of their firehouse that was right across from the Pink Palace, the housing project, with axes to try to help some tourists who had were being attacked there, and that's the only thing they could do, So anyway, these two guys, they were one of them. His mother. I photographed her and her where they lived at, and this is like, I mean, you weren't safe even at night. People bad guys broke into their houses, and what happened is, these two guys have sticks like samurai warriors in a way, and I said, what are those sticks for? And they said, for self-defense. And I said, really? Is that really any good? And all of a sudden, the sticks were up my nose practically, less than a second practically. And I says, yeah, I get the point, but yeah, I mean, it was amazing. The things that people went through, there. And I thought that was one of the most important pictures, besides wearing America on the on the shirt.
This is the Yusuf Hawkins.
Yusuf Hawkins.
Yeah.
I didn't go out to work I didn't like have Magnum connect with any magazines. I didn't even think about it. There was a City Sun, a newspaper, a black newspaper. It was really good. The editor, she was tough. She was really, really good. And so I decided just to work for the City Sun when I was covering this stuff, you know. And that was a picture that ran on their front page. It was a weekly paper, you know. And then a couple of photographers from Time Magazine said, "We knew that had to be you." They looked at it, so that was a nice compliment. I'll take that, you know. But that was a really crazy. I mean, when things get to a certain point, it's no fun at all. It's not like. I mean, I can't even really talk about it because I get too crazy up here. But I was glad that the picture was used well. Mm-hmm. This is
I love this picture.
yeah, my buddy. He's was a professor at the New Jersey University, and we met in judo club, the judo lessons. He had basketball scholarships. He's bigger than me, taller than me, and he he came into started training, and he was sort of surprised that I could throw him around so easily. You know, I was pretty good. I admit that. I was pretty good.
Who's this beautiful woman?
Who's that? Oh,
Who is
okay.
this
This is we grew up together, and at one point we actually got married. At a point when I wasn't really expecting that, you know. But we were friends, you know, from the time we graduated from Delaney Homes Housing Project, and so that's a natural connection because I went into art school and she went on to university to. She was like working at the Library of Congress actually when we got married, and I never saw it coming really. It's like, I mean, well, I don't remember how old I was, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. But she did not comprehend what I was doing. She never thought I was going to. Make it. I don't blame her. We came from Delaney Homes, but a lot of really interesting people came out of Delaney Homes Housing Project, and we're friends. We're still friends, lifelong friends, you know. And but yeah, I introduced her to.
But I just love this picture because the rain. I mean, you know, what were you thinking when you photographed that?
If I was thinking that, I wouldn't have had the picture.
Okay. What were you feeling? What were you feeling?
I couldn't even tell you. It was just like a natural kind of thing. But you think, well, forget what I was going to say. No. But anyway, she heard about this project my friend and I were doing in South Carolina, an African village that adopted the Yoruba culture, and like they didn't speak English until afternoon, and we actually helped establish that, you know, their first year, and it was really interesting, especially when you wake up with a snake rolling around in your. That was not good. But no, it was really important, something important, and I mean, it was like really fortunate that we had a chance to show what was going on. This is the Meeman March, and it got interesting because I was waiting to meet with the editor, the director of photography, and in his office, and the people were coming in to discuss covering the Meeman March, and one of the editors had said, well, it's going to be a bloodshed, this and that. And I was basically offended, but that's okay. She didn't know any better. So I started talking about what was actually going to happen. And it was funny, in a room full of editors, but they listened, and it got I think some of the pictures that were used and how they're used were some of the best things I saw coming out of that. And so, you can't necessarily get pissed off because somebody doesn't understand something. You just have to, at certain times, you're going to have to explain it to him, which I did with enthusiasm. So it worked out. This is another picture where it was covering the fighting. And what happened is a friend of mine, he was in the site, this little tent, talking to the father of this young man. And the mother had been killed. And so there's a daughter who's a little bit older than him. He's 5 years old. And what happened is I went out there because the stuff was getting real close. And I was concerned. I mean, this is where they're at. This is where they're living, right in the front there. And so I went out there, and a little boy, he followed me because it was curious to him. And then a rocket knocked both of us down. I mean, it landed close enough to do that. And so that was a split second after I made the picture. I have a picture someplace which I haven't even bothered looking for. But we were going down. I hit the shutter again. So it was, you know, I wonder all the time, where's that kid? You know, I don't know if I could ever find him. And actually, a friend was who became my mentor when I was there. Wants me to come back to give a lecture at the school. And I'm hoping maybe, you know, it's a long time ago, but I'm hoping that little kid's still alive as an adult. That was in 1983. So
I wanted to ask you about this one because this is from El Salvador.
yeah, this was like, what happened was there was the you know, the place for protecting human rights kind of place. And so we were told that, myself and the reporter were told that there were some men outside with guns that didn't like us being there. And so I had to explain, he just had arrived a few days ago. He was replacing another reporter that was there. I had to explain to him what we had to do if we wanted to get out of there to see another day. And so what happened is that, you know, I wanted to get a picture of these women working, and that this is a photo album. And, you know, it looks like any photo album, except that these are their brothers, their fathers, sons, whatever. And I photographed it in a number of different ways, because I did pictures where they're out of focus, where you can't see the faces, but you see the book. And I asked them, we had like a quick 5-minute conversation about that through my translator, that you know, I didn't want to do something that's going to endanger them more, but they all wanted their faces to be shown, you know, because they were real and with all the stuff that happened. So I put my my wallet underneath that so higher, but they really wanted. I kept on asking them, you know, even after I shot the thing, because I didn't know if I wanted to. But they said it was really important. The translator said it's really important. It should see their faces. And then I had to figure out a way of getting out of there if these guys with the guns are coming in, because they were really not happy about us. Fortunately, that didn't happen, so we got out to live another day. This is the guy that started, Duarte, who started the Death Squads.
Yeah.
Even this. Gabuson, yeah, sorry. Anyway, my translator he lost a friend of his that was killed. And so he was going to have a press conference, and so my translator, he's from Minnesota actually, he loves Central America, and that's what, I mean, like, he said, we should go to the mountains. And he was talking about us like a tourist thing, but that was where a lot of stuff was going on, you know. So I could.
Need to.
Oh well. Anyway, he's okay. I got the picture. Okay. I mean that was it was interesting.
No, and this person was really responsible for the murder of
a lot of people.
Yeah, and the Archbishop.
Yeah.
He was the.
He was called a psychological something by the ambassador, you know, of Salvador, from the United States. And he was crazy. This is in a refugee camp, people that escaped from, they went through hell, and they didn't trust anybody, you know. But they trusted me enough to, I made the photographs, and you know, they relaxed a little bit after it, because people want their stories told also. You know, you know, it's, you want to know, you want people to know what's going on with them, but you got to choose carefully what times. This is Lost Boys in the refugee camp, and it was crazy because they just went around the corner and they had, I think, lost their soccer ball up in a tree or something, but they just reacted a different way, you know, and they're playing. So they came around the corner and boom, I was ready. I didn't know what was coming, but I was just, you always feel like, you know, you're always looking for everything going on. You don't want to go in there, you're not playing there, you're not on a vacation, you know, you're there to work. And I was there for 2 weeks, I think, 2 weeks. And when we came back, did work in the two different places where they were introduced to in the United States. And that was pretty amazing. I have a book that was made, and I didn't even remember it. I didn't remember doing the book, but it looks pretty good. It was exactly how I laid the stuff out. So that was crazy. Now, this is an introduction to the color. So, I don't know what your feelings about it, but I like the picture.
Yeah.
That was taken on campus, actually. And my assistant there, head of this, she was, well, you'll see it again if you go up to the exhibition here. But that's, you know, it's like, I don't know how to explain this. You go, I like to take pictures. You know? so it's like, you know, when you see something that's interesting, and it's,
I don't think anyone here understands that.
yeah, well, that's the way it goes. This is in Korea. It's a project that was going on there. I've done a number of trips. The first time I went there was a month photographing the entertainment industry for a group that's like Time Life there. These are extras, a long way from Seoul, you know, by 400, you know, whatever. And this is just various things going on in the entertainment industry. So that's what, this is like just riding my car. I wasn't driving, I was just sitting next, but I thought it was interesting. This that first trip, this was the last day I was there. And this is one of the biggest, maybe it's the biggest church in Korea, Christian church there. But I didn't know that until I got back. This is like Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, the first trip there, and waiting for a taxi to take me back to the hotel. But I think somebody here has that. And this is from a concert where they're using electronics. There's no people there, but people who go to see this like dancing and all kinds of stuff, they can put your face, you know, you get a picture taken, your face can be put on some of the dancers. These are just the people there, you know. This is from Central America. Did some stuff for Red Cross, a number of Magnum photographers in different parts of the world. And that's, it's like HIV. This guy's in China. I forgot what the hell he was doing here. No. I mean, no, he's a good guy. He's arranged this program that's going on. And this is, believe it or not, that's the Great Wall behind it. Because the Great Wall you see in pictures is not the Great Wall that goes all the way, travels through China. And it was, but you know, typical family just on there, and it's like that. This place is the oldest fort, what remains of it, 1,600 years, I think, you know, and there. That was sort of fun because of the hat. This is there's a photo festival that was going on, and I just roam around and see what I can see and see what happens, you know. That's fun. This is doing exercise in the morning, early morning, as the sun's coming up. And, the little kid was, I was never seen a black guy before. So he was so cute, it was like very funny. This is I forgot where this is at. What? Cambodia, thank you. I can't remember all these things. I've been in a lot of places. But that's one of my favorite pictures, just this quiet, you know, morning and interesting place to be at. Okay. We move on here. This is a friend in the south of France. She offered to introduce me to Bringo once. And I said no, because he's going to be on in 2 hours. And I wouldn't do that to a performer, you know, like that. And then I find out he's really into photography. So I felt like an idiot, but that's a whole other story. This is in France, not France, in Italy. I like just the play of light and didn't go there. It was like real, I was there for a 4-day vacation, I think, first time in Italy. A wedding, just like it was fun. And this is a woman who, her husband works at the museum in upper New York, and she's very hot-tempered, let's put it that way. And there's one of our residents from well, you know who he is. Yeah, see, that works very well. Yeah, I just love that picture. I like a lot of pictures. Okay, anybody could guess who this guy is? Yep, good. You go to head of class. This is I was shooting this movie. I think it might have been the last movie I shot, and there's this window of the door that was part of a set. I thought it was interesting, so I asked the star, you know, and the director of photography, and the lead actress for it. It was just an experiment, so I had this idea of something that's still not completed yet, because I've been busy. This woman is really amazing. She's pretty tough. And she's, in her own way, she's done a lot of stuff. She's done a lot of small things, but they were interesting small things. So I just shot pictures of her, just for, normal thing. You need a picture, whatever. But that was the last picture I did of the day. I just liked that because she was tough, And this is a woman, her family, the bulldog thing in Yale, they brought that out, and they created the most important dramatic theater for students in London. So anyway, this is an actress who's in the movie Natasha, interesting. And this is this American Gangster. This what caused this picture. The director who did the first director who did Training Day, he asked me to spend some time photographing Sense of Harlem, so to inspire the rest of the crews, and that to me was always there. So just like I spent about an hour and a half each day for 5 days, walking around Harlem photographing, and that was the first one because the hats they're wearing, they used to be the what do you call it, the stockings, Durags, right? And these I got from the drugstore, And I was walking. That was the very first picture I made. As I was walking by, I said, "Hey, how's it going, guys?" And kept on going. 3 more steps, and wait a second. So I went back and explained I was doing these pictures for a movie. Do you mind? And they've had dealing with life in their own thing. So that became the first photograph for it. So it was interesting. And this is one of the photographs I made also. He's an actual cowboy, retired. Okay. This is another picture. I ran into a guy on the street and just decided I want to photograph him. Okay. This is in northern New York, upstate New York, for a museum. They were doing some kind of show. And there's somebody who's in the audience. That's my back. When you go out my door, you see this wall, and that's become my studio at times. And this is, okay, you know who he is, right? Yeah, Jimmy. So he's this amazing Hall of Fame guitar player. He unfortunately passed away, but when I met his wife in New Mexico, when she invited me to come spend, when I come to Los Angeles to stay at their place, and I didn't know I was hanging out with a legend. I mean, the guy is absolutely amazing. I have 7 guitars and still haven't started playing any of them yet. That's another story. She's having her first child, and so, what do we call it, the birth, all these women are friends of hers. She started this thing for young women, business women, and so they're all celebrating with her, and they used to go on these dugout canoes and competitions and things like that, so that's what they did from San Francisco to by the bridge on the other side, Okay. This is like coming home after a long night, a long day working on a movie. I was living in New York, I could barely walk. and then I see the light on the stairway and the bulb, and I just braced myself and I made the picture, so I won. This is another person who's did some interesting things, but I sort of for fun photographed them, and I wanted to take a picture of her by herself. And this is a scene in Los Angeles, just a street scene, walking by. This is a story I did on what do you call it? It's smoking the dope, in Canada. Grass. I don't partake, so that's why I can't remember this. So anyway, this lady is a millionaire, probably a billionaire by now, and just at the end of she was one of his subjects, the last subject I shot actually, in Canada, and just leaves you relax at the end of the day. This is Los Angeles. I was doing a workshop, and I said, I might as well take some pictures myself, which is always going to happen anyway. So that's one of them. This is a scene in New York, just, how do you say, it's like typical New York scene, I guess. This is at the, this is at Harvard during the get-together. I don't know how she got up there, but okay, we'll go for it. This is in Africa. I did something for some kind of place that were doing things on, basically on recovery or getting rid of, you know, things that you use on a toilet, you left in a toilet. But it was more serious than that, because he, the guy who owned this business donated these bathrooms to the students at school, and it cut down absences by 90%, because like some of the places where they had to go, you know, take a move, it could be a cobra waiting for you. The last time you ever do that, seriously. So that guy, you know, something like that you don't think, but works out that way. This is work for the UN. There's two things. There's things on young women being married against their will, of course, and there's also about the health issues that were going on. So I made 2 trips back and forth there. This is a mother of one of her daughter who was taken as a, you know, a wife, and, you know, is not happy with it and trying to help her daughter and trying to, you know, it's like they don't have much power, so it's always that way. I mean, so it's really tough, you know, to do the deal. And there's some stuff that the UN was also establishing support for a number of things, so that's why I made this photograph. You have to be a fighter. You can't just turn around and just lie back, you know. And this is the reality, getting water. And a lot of times the simplest pictures are not that simple. There are always just things that go on behind it that you need to know about, you know. So, and this is familiar faces. I mean, they're helping me move. The students were my family here, you know, so that's all there's to it. And that's like moving into the place where I live now, which is good. This is a friend who's an actor and working on other stuff. And we worked on a couple interesting things, but I'm not going to show you the first film that we worked on, which was cool. So actually, there's somebody waiting for it to take it further. That's another story. And this is like a sign for the New York Times. And okay, so this is not the picture they ran. They ran something else. But there's another picture that was very interesting that actually completed what they were asking for, but they didn't use it because all kinds of games go on when you have meetings, you know, with different people, different ideas. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. It's the way it is. Okay, and that's my friend Leon here when he's doing a play, and so it starts with an H. Okay.
Houston?
Houston, yeah. This is the first movie I worked on, which was with 18-hour days. You heard that? That was like, I didn't know that was unusual until somebody came on in the last week, I think, and said, the first thing they said, was this the movie where it's 18-hour days? That's the first clue I had that is not normal. So, but you know, it was interesting. It was like inspirational in a lot of ways. I mean, the way you guys did, you know, your stuff together was amazing. So that's one of my valued things. This is Beautiful Mind. Now, the interesting thing about this movie is that I did not know that the director, you know, what's his name? Ron Howard, and the director of photography, but were trying to tell me something on the first day. But on the first day, I have my, you know, I'm figuring out what cameras I think I'm going to need or use during this thing, you know, and the production designer, he's a brother who I worked with, or on something else, but they were trying to tell me something, and then I find out like that was you know, when that movie was being made. It was the first day, and then in 2008, some photo magazine did a story. I missed that one too. I look at the photographs. Okay with the photographs, and the text seemed to be okay. And what they said was what did they say? They based the look of the movie on the book Black in America. So, and it was a black and white book, you know. But the way, you know, you deal with lighting and stuff like that, and I hadn't even imagined that, you know. So that was sort of interesting, finding out. This is Robert Altman, which is always a great experience to work with Robert Altman, you know. So, and this was the only movie I ever did where I chose the photographs. I felt good about that. This is the Jackal, and that was sort of interesting too, like 4 months roaming around, you know, and what you called they had, this is the thing that's hard. They had a photographer who was very good doing, you know, posters and record album covers. He's really good. I mean, I respect him. And what happened is, they did something in the studio, did something really silly. They flew him from Los Angeles to London where we were shooting. He gets there, lands at 7 o'clock, and he's taken immediately to this, you know, where they're shooting, you know, where he's going to be doing the shots, which is crazy. The guy was like, I felt bad for him, you know, because you never know what they're going to use for your, you know, the thing. You just do the best you can. And so I actually talked to his assistant and said, listen, I know this is hard on the guy, just if he needs some help or some advice on something. He didn't get a chance to know who the characters are. And so what happened is, our brother on the bottom there, we'd gotten along pretty well, and he decided he didn't want to be photographed by this guy, because he knew the guy hadn't had a break, right, one day. And so he told the studio that Eli was to do the shoot, he'll do good stuff. So I arranged it, and it was like very, very quick, and it was on a really horrible space that was fine for the picture that I was going to get. And and all the other actors who were quality actors didn't like the pictures the guy took. It wasn't his fault. I mean, it's the fault of the studio for not giving a time at least to recover, just to even to meet the characters. So that's happened. This is Natasha, the young woman that you saw before. I think it's her first movie, I guess. You know. 8 Mile. This is. I really like this guy. Let's put it that way. And like what I did, I suspected it was going to be his first and last movie. So every chance I got, I was on him. And he at one point he says, "Hey man, what are you doing?" He says, like, you know, you got to pay me. I said, "Pay you? They pay me to take your picture." He said, he said, "No man, you got to pay me. You got to pay me." I said, "Well, what do you want?" He says, $1. So I slapped $1 in his hand. We did that twice for, you know, but I knew I was right. I was there when the finished shooting the last shot, and the director said, "Yeah, well, how do you feel about your first movie?" He said, "I'm not going to do this shit anymore." He says, "I'm a musician." That's what he said. And this is, okay, Tracy, you're going to tell me about this. I'm going to leave it to you. You're the one who started this.
So barber.
Yeah, it's a barber. It's a documentary we made, which is really good. I mean, and some people who know what the hell to talk about, love the documentary, you know. Mm-hmm. But you know, the one thing we did, the music rights, that's a killer. We still have an ace in the hand there, so hopefully we'll get it done. So it should have been up there. It's very good. This is a recent. She's really into human rights. Her and her husband, and she was introduced to me here in Austin by a friend that worked with in the human rights area, and she's absolutely amazing. I mean, the stuff that it did there, it's still not completed. I mean, because of stuff that I haven't done a thing just from my own gut. I did stuff that was needed, you know. So it's coming though. And this is the
recent work.
This is the recent work, and it's boy. Lauren, why don't you talk about this? Because I get too excited.
This was in New Orleans, and Eli was doing work for the Human Rights Watch
on Cancer
about
Alley.
the Cancer Alley between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So this area where the industries there are really polluting the air, the water, and they just released a report on it last Thursday.
Killing black
last
people.
Last Thursday.
Yes.
And
you know, with the poisonous stuff that's going on, and it's actually had that first thing last Thursday, and now the second one just came out, I think yesterday. They put it out before, but
there'll be more from
yeah.
work, but they had Eli come in and take portraits of a lot of the activists and the people that are on the ground working there.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, this is almost like a sign, because it's much more than that. And this is just 6 pictures that, you know, I mean, it's much more things going on, including the cameraman who got shot at on the day before the last thing, and he, he's lucky the angle. I think that was that.
There's a lot of security around the plants to prevent like reporters and photographers from coming in and trying to report much.
And the
But there's
police
certain
group.
spots
So
where there's still public land that you can technically be on. So it was a lot. It was you have to kind of be really careful.
they were expecting just portraits, but I didn't. I mean, this is like a sense of this place. It's like going to hell. I mean, what's going on there? And this is where this he has 4 of his family. They're dead in there, and it's just inside the places where they're doing all this stuff, and they tried to hassle us that day. The security guy came up.
One of those places is there's a plant that surrounds this graveyard that they sold the land of the church, but they couldn't sell the graveyard land to the plant. So this is still technically public property, but the plant that completely surrounds it. And anytime any of them even try to come to visit the gravesite, they're kind of hounded by the security.
Right.
Because it's right in the middle of it all.
Yeah. This is like a tiny section of the stuff. I really like the stuff I did. I mean, usually, much later, but this one I felt good. I mean, because of I had personal reasons also, but I'm not going to go into that. So that's. And this picture is because you got to have a little light in your life, And this was like watching the sun come up early one morning, and it was just surreal. I mean, I felt surreal, and that's what he got. So I felt good about it. It's like it's very different from what I usually shoot, I guess. But what I usually shoot, I never know what I'm going to shoot. So there it goes. I think that's about it. I mean.
Well,
except for the exhibition you're going to see.
Yeah.
So that's so it's not just it. But
So we have time for about 15 minutes of questions for Eli, if anyone has comments on any of the images that you've seen or questions about them. And then we'll all go down to the 3rd floor to gather, and there's a reception, there's food, and the gallery of other images that you haven't seen tonight are downstairs on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Eli, I want to know how you got your first photography job.
Let's see. Serious photography? Okay. I was.
Someone paid you.
Yeah, the first time.
Even a dollar.
When you walked in the door and said, I want to be a photographer.
I didn't walk in the door. What happened is I volunteered teaching in a prison upstate 1 day a week. This prison, a year or two before then, New York Times had an article about how they're openly recruiting Ku Klux Klan, and thing. So I forgot about that. It's 2 years before or something like that. So I went to it. The first day was interesting. There was almost a riot because of some stuff they did. But I was working on that, and then that was interesting, just the time teaching. And what happened is my car broke down. I think it was probably, the more I thought about it recently, it was probably one of the security guards that did something. And because of that, though, I met this one guy, and I was, really dejected, and I was working in a hospital. When I was coming out of high school, I worked in a hospital when I was going to art school. And it was like, then I discovered a mentor, Donald Greenhouse, who became my mentor. And then I'm working in New York City, after working at the hospital, St. Vincent's, and and working at my photography. And I went to ICP I got a class with W. Gene Smith, workshop in Minneapolis, his last thing. And so that was inspirational, but I was already inspired by, good work, most of like a lot of stuff from Magnum. So what happened is, because my car broke down, I meet this writer he says to me, he says, I could tell by because I'm dejected, I'm taking a picture through a window because I wasn't going to sit in the bus stop. Was smaller than this space here, I guess. I mean, I'm talking about just this space here. And so I was making a picture, and I see this guy in the reflection on this window, right? And I turn around after I made the photograph, and he says, I can see by your camera that you're a man of distinction, because I had a Leica. That's why I shot the picture with. And he took me for a walk to the newspaper. I thought it was a small, real like a one building, small building kind of thing. But that was the big paper there, the Middletown Times-Herald Record. So that was the first time. It took a while. And if somebody says, keep in touch, you better keep in touch. You don't know, because that's how I got my first job, working in the Middletown Times-Herald Record. And then the Detroit News, and then the San Francisco Examiner, which was fantastic. They do a movie on that. I mean, just the experience at the Examiner was amazing, all kinds of ways. And that's also the first place where, well, not first place, but when I did the photo essay in Central America, that was a breakthrough. That's like Magnum approached me from looking at the work that they did. Even one of the people that I was inspired by, our friend from London, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, this is a test. He's supposed to figure it out. This guy was really, really good. And he came from the same kind of neighborhood I did, relatively speaking. Down in McCullen. Okay, I gotta give it up. Down in McCullen. And he, the best, nicest thing that I could remember hearing about the work I did in Central America was from down in McCullen. And we met there. We ran into each other for the first time there. And we became friends. And so, that's all that stuff that's like, I feel so damn lucky, But, you got to keep on working. You can't let yourself be stopped by it. There's so many ways that you can get stopped. But that doesn't matter. Every time you get stopped, you learn something else in self-defense, So, and then the guys like this guy here, that picture that was you put on the cover, that was like amazing. Because that was not a typical journalistic picture. But you ain't a typical guy, though. So either. So that.
You don't shoot many verticals.
More than you expect, I mean, I'm always fooling around like that. But yeah, you're right.
Gotta be a vertical in here somewhere.
There's enough. But yeah, each place I worked at, I learned something.
We have another question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So,
Maggie.
so I've watched you take portraits of people, and until I saw that, I thought when somebody's taking a portrait of a person, it was just, the camera you use, the lens you use, the lighting, but you did something where you talked to people, and you got to their essence in a way. How do you do that?
I was interested in them. I mean, it's like all this stuff comes into play. Leon.
I can give you an example. So Eli comes to shoot me at a recording studio in New York. And I go to the bathroom, getting ready, changing. He's in the bathroom with me. And I'm like, okay, well, Leon elaborate. He says, no, this is great, just keep looking in the mirror, just like whatever. I'm walking up, he's shooting me every single second, even when we finish the shoot. I think we finished the shoot. And I'm changing some other stuff. He said, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, so, yeah, he just really, he follows every bit of you. And eventually, he's gonna get magic.
Yeah, that's what it comes to. I mean, you just said it. I mean, most of the pictures I'm not satisfied with. I have a whole bunch of you that's going to be an interesting part of the next project. So you can't stop.
There's someone in the back.
Yeah.
Can I ask your opinion on El Salvador's current president?
Oh,
What's this?
El Salvador's current president. I think we probably don't.
No, we don't want to do that.
We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I can talk about that later with you.
Okay. You choose.
Yeah.
You.
And then there's somebody in the back, but first.
Okay.
Okay. No, yeah, you,
Me.
and then, yeah,
Okay,
and then.
So, the picture of the man with the light on his face that you said he ordered several people to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Roberto Bell's.
First of all, there's several pictures that I've seen here where what I appreciate about them is that they're very quiet. People are very still. They're so quiet, but it's so intense. You can just feel the intensity of it. And that was one. And so I wanted to know, how did you get in there with that man, you're right there?
Okay, I'll tell you. It's a long, short story. There's one of his friends was shot by another group, and killed, and it's had sort of a wake.
And where was this?
El Salvador. So he was, the press was waiting for him to come, you know, he's going to give a talk. And there's a journalist from England who, I think she'd saying a little bit too much, or that's more than what she wanted to put up with, and she started laughing. But it was hysterically laughing. And oh God, if she's laughing like that when he comes, she's gonna disappear. And so I sort of grabbed her and dragged her out of the place, you know, and put her in a taxi and told the guy, you know, as one of the drivers that, you know, I'm familiar with, and said, take her to her hotel, you know, now. And then went back in. So then, you know, he gets here, and my translator had, there's a table, you know, long table, and he was going to be at the end of the table. I mean, this guy, and so my translator, he's like a friend. He was not just a translator anymore. We went through too much stuff together. He got at the right in the front. Now, I don't know what to think about that, because there's like, if you're black, they think you're from, you know, what's it called, Cuba. And I had more than a couple incidents where you had to, you know, think fast and try to get through that. So I could see, like, what's he going to think? Is he that smart or is he that dumb? But so he arrives, and I took pictures, and no problem. But I wasn't satisfied. It was just at the end of the table. And I got up, and I just sort of stood there, and there's a gathering around. And then the picture I got was like, that was more who he is. I mean, this guy was a scary dude. I mean, he's crazy. He's crazy and mean. I mean, so sometimes just things like that. But I'm sure the fact that what could have happened to that reporter if he stayed there, you know, and so all that's running around in your head. So you just try to get the picture suddenly, quietly, with 50mm lens, you know, and it worked. You know, sometimes I like using a wide-angle lens, you know, and because I like getting close. You get closer and closer. But 50mm is a wonderful lens to work with, you know, and good training and good for life, you know. So anyway, I'm talking too much.
There was another question, and then another question in the back, so yeah.
So throughout the multiple years that you've been a photographer, you've witnessed a lot of technological changes, especially within like the media that you do use to take your photography. So my question is like, how have you kind of adjusted to these changing technologies within photography, and like how has that also influenced like your work and your perception as an artist?
It doesn't really influence what I think about it, because it's just move your damn legs, get closer or step back, or the angles are. I like using this 135mm lens, you know, and it's a good one that I like a lot, and I also like working in close. So you know, the technology is like what is it? Like we're breathing in and out. That's technology to me, you know. Get in close, and you know, I think a lot of things. I used to, you know, really was good at judo. I liked judo, and the thing is, the best stuff you can do is to don't worry about what your opponent's doing. Start to get, you know, your own state of grace, or whatever you want to call it, and then like when you unearth something they never expected, you're not even conscious of doing it yourself. You just go in, boom, you know, and that's the best expression of that for me was that I qualified for nationals. I was qualified for nationals in this thing, but my instructor hadn't told me what it was for, because it was hard for me to get off time to, you know, enter competitions. And so what happened was, the first guy I fought he's from another time zone. I mean, if I went right, he went left. If I went up, he went down. And finally, I just did something we did in the exercises, which was I just closed my eyes, because you're holding on to them, and then now. That was the most perfect throw I've ever pulled off in a competition. And I went through to the finals. I ended up fighting a guy who was on the United States judo team. He was 4th degree black belt. I'm a lowly 1st ranked brown belt. So that means if he says, I'm going to shoot you with this, you're not going to be able to stop me. That's what's going to happen usually. I threw him 4 times. I couldn't get him clean, but I got him 4 times, and finally he got me at the end. It was like the 35 seconds left, and he pulled it off. So it felt good. I didn't care if I won or lost, but I ended up fighting the other guy he was the collegiate champion for colleges for judo 4 years in a row, from a family of really fine judo players. And he was the toughest match all day for everybody because he threw people like they're going through the floor. But, you know, I was the toughest fight. And he got me in the end. But, I mean, it was, you didn't even see things. You just all of a sudden you're upside down. And it's amazing how much time is, you know, was going. You're wondering, what the hell happened? They were trying to figure out how he did it. And then as we bowed out, you know, and he shook hands, as we walked off the mat, he put his arm around my shoulders and told me, you know, just this one thing. It was like one basic thing. But that's what life is like. You know, you try to, you know, use those basic things in your favor, you know, and without hurting somebody, you know. So, I mean, that's, all these things come together when you're trying to do, I mean, the equipment is the equipment. I love using, you know, this Leica, and I love using the Sony cameras, and particularly this new one that's coming out. It's amazing because it makes it easier for me to go into what I want to do, and you can also shoot film also with it. I mean, in an interesting way. So it's that's all. The machines are always going to be there, whatever it is. I don't care how long ago it was or whatever. So I don't start to, you know, worship the machines. I worship what I can do with them, you know. And the other stuff you can get. I mean, it's. The people are always going to be more important and more interesting than machines. I don't care what it is. You know?
So I think we have time for, there was one more question in the back,
Yeah.
and then we probably should head down
Right, yeah.
to the opening.
Okay. What's that? Okay.
You mentioned a couple times that you take photos just roaming around, and I wondered how your creative process changes when you're on an assignment versus when you're just roaming around.
I think it's pretty much the same thing, you know. But you're visually, you're checking out everything, you know, and you know, maybe you will decide to shoot, or maybe you won't, you know. But it's not even a clear decision, you know. I'm controlling myself by not just shooting you guys all different. I mean, I've seen so many different things, but you know, it's like it's. You know, I do a lot of writing, and the one thing. I'm not going to go into that one. It's sort of fun, but you know, it's nice. It's fun to be alive and to be able to see things and capture them. You know, so that's how I go about it. You know, and if something comes up that's interesting, to help you get there faster, or maybe with a little bit more subtlety, so you don't have people screaming at you. And no, I don't get that. I don't really get that. But it's like you know, if you think about it too much, then you're screwed. You know, I try not to get into that, and I don't have to try, you know. I just, you know, you observe and see what's going on. You can always see things. I mean, you look at the work of different photographers you never heard of, and they're seeing that same kind of thing. And I'm not saying that because I admire them, I'm just because that's rational to me, you know. So just work at the stuff and see what happens. And hopefully, you know, and I was just looking at a couple hours ago, this pictures that this dinner party, you know, had. And it was a lot of fun. There's too much in it, you know. It was good. I mean, that's the fun part, you know. It's like something that's not important to anybody else, except those moments. I'm examining them, and it was really cool. So you got to like what you're doing, and again, it comes like that song. I will always love you. You know, you got to be able to appreciate where you're at, and you know, I've had some recent problems, shall we say, but never lose track of. I want to do more stuff until they take me away. And they're not going to work, that's not going to work too well, you know, hopefully, you know. That's about it.
Any last words of wisdom for students before we head downstairs?
Oh boy. I mean, you know, it's the best thing I think, observe, read all you can about everything, appreciate, you know, movies that are done just like that, I was talking about you. I mean, that was this fascinating kind of thing, and how you got into the character, something that I don't think anybody expected, you know, but it was really important, you know, and life is important, enjoy it. That's the best thing I could say, really, when it comes down to it. I mean, I see so much that just the way parents are with their kids, you know. I love kids. Kids love me a lot of times. I mean, they've been going through the airport, and they're in the, you know, they're looking this way, and I'm walking here, I'm in a wheelchair or something, and these kids are like looking at me, and I stick my tongue at them, and they're cracking up, you know, to have these conversations with them. Not all the time, but enough, you know. They know what's going on, like cats. They know what's going on, you know. So, what can I tell you? So, I mean, you got to have a sense of humor, because you're going to have a lot of times when it's not very funny, you know. But there's a lot of things. There's so many things you can approach this stuff from, you know. And I remember, even if I don't remember immediately, you know, all of a sudden you're doing something and something you maybe were at before, and you haven't even seen the pictures yet, and then you see the pictures, and like when in New Orleans, like that shot through the window, right? You know, like the car window. You know, Lauren was driving, and I didn't think about this thing coming up. I just did it. It just seemed to matter, you know, and I don't think about it too much. Then when I see the picture later, holy crap, you know, it's like really something else that, I mean, it was saying something to me about how I was feeling about what I was seeing, what I was hearing. And yeah, we hear all night just talking about that. I'm not going to do that to you. So anyway, you get the idea, I hope. Yes? Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.